For our quiz, 4 solutions for Math 95. The first question here, we're given this function, and we're asked, first to evaluate what f of 4 is. So the way you figure out what f of 4 is, that's asking what comes out of this function when you put 4 into it for x. So let's see, if x equals 4, we first have to figure out what rule we want to use. 4 is not less than -2, so we won't use that rule, but 4 is greater than 2. So we'll use this rule here. So what we want to do is stick 4 into this equation right here. So f of 4 would be 3 minus 4, which is just -1. And that's the answer to the first one, to part A. Part B, we're asked to find all values of x such that f of x equals 0. So now what we want to do is set each of these rules, 2x minus 1 and 3 minus x, equal to 0. And these are things we can solve easily enough. Let's see up here, if you add 1 to both sides and then divide by 2, you'll get x is 1/2. And down here, maybe add x over to this side, and you'll get x equals 3. But then you want to be careful. These may or may not be solutions. Remember, we only use this top rule if x is less than -2. So we're saying if x was 1/2, we'd get the right answer, but 1/2 is not less than -2. So not less than -2. So it's not a solution, and f of 1/2 does not in fact equal 0. And now we can check this 3 right here. 3 is bigger than 2. So if we tried to put 3 into this function, we would use this rule down here, and we would get 0 out of it. So in fact, f of 3 equals 0. So I guess to answer the question, find all values of x such that f of x equals 0, we'd say x equals 3. And that's the end of the first question. See the second question, you're given a function, something like this, maybe drawn a little bit neater, and asked a few things. Let's see, 3 things, I guess. First one is, what is g of 1? So that's saying when you put 1 into this function, when 1 is your x value, what is your f of x? And the way you figure that out is you find x equals 1, that's right here, and figure out what the height is at that point. I didn't draw it great, but what I was going for here is that g of 1 equals -2. In part B, we're asked to find all values of x such that g of x equals 1. So it sounds a little similar to this problem, but it's different. Now we're saying you tell me the x value so that the g of x, the height, is equal to 1. So if we go back to our graph, it looks like the height is equal to 1 over here, right at this point, when x equals -2, and then again at this point right here, when x is equal to 3. So to answer this question, x equals -2 and 3 are the 2 points so that g of x is equal to +1. And finally, what is the domain of g of x? The domain of g of x is all possible x values, everything that kind of has a height that corresponds with it. So the way we did this in class is we kind of looked at the shadow of this function down on our x-axis here. So it looks like it's everything from right here, and we want to include this point over to here, and again we include this point because this circle and this circle are closed. And then it starts back, so it's from, what's that, -2 up to +1, and then it starts back up at +2, but now we want the circle to be open because this circle's open, and it goes all the way over here to this circle, which is open. So our final domain would be from -2 to +1, and then from 2 to 4. So let's see, -2 to +1, and then again, so we'll write union from 2 to 4. But I want you to notice I use brackets over here and parentheses over here, because over here we did want the endpoints, over here we don't want the endpoints. So that ends up being the domain. That's the answer, and that's the end of the quiz.